So, what's the secret to telling a story that people just can't forget? Most of the advice out there makes it sound super complicated, but honestly, it really just comes down to one simple principle. So forget all the complex formulas, let's break down what actually really works.
And to show you what I mean, let's start with a perfect little example. It's a story from the actor John Krasinski that's maybe 20 seconds long, but it reveals the single most important secret to telling a great story. The whole thing takes place at a customs checkpoint.
Okay, so the customs agent asks him, "Who are you visiting?" And John says, "My wife." The agent keeps going, "Is she an actress?" "Yeah." "Would I know her?" John goes, "I don't know. Her name's Emily Blunt." And the agent just stops. He freezes. He looks at John and says, You married Emily Blunt?"
So why is that tiny little story so effective? I mean, he could have just said, the customs agent was really surprised that I was married to a famous actress, but he didn't do that. Instead, he did something way, way more powerful.
And here it is. This is the secret. He zoomed right into the moment. See, the best storytellers, they don't summarize from a distance. Nope, they pull you right into the middle of the action so it feels like you're there. Think of it like this. It's the helicopter view versus the trenches view. The helicopter gives you that boring, high-level summary. But the trenches put you in the moment. Krasinski took us right into the trenches with that customs agent, and learning how to do that yourself is actually way simpler than you think. In fact, there are 5 really simple techniques you can use, starting today, to zoom into the moment and bring your own stories to life.
Location, actions, thoughts, emotions, and dialogue. That's it. These 5 tools are literally all you need. So let's take a look at how to use each one to build a story that really lands.
First up, anchor your story in a physical location. Just by saying where you are, I'm in a conference room, or I'm in my living room, it instantly gives your audience a mental picture to start building. It grounds the whole story in a real space.
A generic start is totally forgettable, right? But contrast that with something like, it's September 2019 and I'm standing in front of the conference room. All of a sudden, boom, we're right there with you just waiting for that door to open.
Second, describe what you're actually doing, your physical actions. Are you walking, typing, just waiting around? Using these strong, active verbs creates this forward momentum, and it pulls the listener straight into the most important part of the story. So instead of just passively describing a scene, using active verbs like I open my laptop and I start reading pulls your listener right into the experience with you. It makes the story feel immediate, like it's happening right now.
Okay, number 3, share your thoughts. And I mean your raw, unfiltered internal monologue. This is the secret sauce that makes a story truly relatable. When you give us access to your hopes, your fears, your worries, that's how you create a real, genuine connection.
For example, you could just say, I was disappointed. Okay, that's telling us. Or you could show us the thought. I thought to myself, oh man, this is bad. Everyone is going to think I'm an idiot. That second version feels infinitely more real, doesn't it? And that leads us perfectly to our 4th tool. Show emotions, don't just name them. How does a feeling physically show up in your body? Describing that physical reaction is so much more powerful than just saying the name of the emotion.
Just compare these two. I was relieved is fine. It's a flat statement. But I leaned all the way back in my chair and let out this huge sigh. Now we can actually see and feel that relief right along with you.
And finally, number 5, use dialogue. What were the exact words people said? Quoting someone directly is one of the easiest and fastest ways to make any story more dynamic and engaging. It just breathes life into the whole thing.
A summary like, my manager was happy with my work, is okay, but it's pretty forgettable. But hearing the actual words, wow, that was really the best presentation you've ever given, that is so much more impactful. All right, so we've got our 5 tools. Now let's see how they all come together in what is basically a masterclass of storytelling from the entrepreneur Sarah Willingham. As you listen, see if you can spot how she's using these techniques to build her story. So Sarah tells the story from back when she was in her mid-20s. She walked into a meeting room, just 2 minutes late, and the lawyer on the other side of the table looks up at her and says, "Oh, thank goodness for that. Mine's white with 1 sugar, please." He just assumed she was there to serve the coffee.
So what did she do? She made him his coffee, she served it to him, and then she made one for herself and sat right down opposite him. She says, as he looked up, I watched the color just drain from his face as he realized this enormous assumption that he'd made.
And right there, in that moment, she had this huge realization. Being completely underestimated like that, it wasn't an insult. It was an incredible superpower. Because, as she puts it, guess who walked out with the deal?
What an amazing story, right? And it works so well because she used every single tool we just talked about. She gave us the location, her actions, the exact dialogue, the lawyer's visible emotion, and her own powerful internal thought. It's all there.
So here it is, the ultimate takeaway. Telling insanely good stories doesn't require some kind of complicated formula. All it requires is a shift in your perspective. You just have to stop summarizing from the helicopter and start taking us down into the trenches with these 5 simple tools.
So the only question left is this. The next time you have a story to tell, are you going to stay up in the helicopter? Or are you going to take us down into the trenches with you?